All right, let's start the meeting then. Cody, you want to lead us?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Peter?
And then a silence for first responders. Please.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Michelle Truitt is under the weather tonight, and I'll have to run the meeting. As usual, it will be a hybrid BOS meeting. Zoom public is asked to remain muted until we have comment by the board and the people in the room. Zoom participants, if they want to comment, should raise their hand icon, and we'll get to them. The board met in executive session prior to this meeting on personnel matters. And this is a little unusual, but we'll take time for public comment up front here. Anybody have a public comment?
Specifically for non-agenda items, just to clarify, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair.
I'd even take a comment on an agenda item, but we'll get to them. Okay, we don't have any emergency services reports. There's no hands up on Zoom, are there?
No.
With my weak eyesight, I can hardly see that. We don't have a public hearing, nor do we have a financial report. So we'll go right to the approval of minutes and treasurer's report. Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion to pass the minutes of January 2nd and January 16th with the change on the 16th minutes, adding Conservancy member Eric Meyer as an attendee. Second.
Second the motion. Comment? Questions from the board or from the room? Nothing on Zoom, so I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0, 4-0. Okay, we don't have Michelle on
No.
Zoom either, so, okay. So it'll be 4-0 on that motion. Treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Attached, please find the treasurer's report for weeks January 11, 2024 through February 1st, 2024. Our EIT collections, real estate tax collections, permit and codes fees, local service tax collections, recharges, rent, and parks and rec registrations and rentals drove our general fund revenue during this period. Our general fund expenses included engineering services, snow removal materials, vehicle maintenance, pension contributions, tree removal, insurance, and other routine operational expenses. Our capital reserve fund incurred $5,000 expense for lighting, wiring, and installation on public works trucks. The bond fund incurred $13,000 of expense for Milltown Dam engineering. Infrastructure sustainability fund incurred $33,000 of expense for our Bow Tree Pond rehabilitation in order to add additional dewatering tubes and machine rentals. The ARPA fund incurred $112,000 of expense for the final payment to JOAO and Bradley Construction for their week work completed to close out the Hershey Mill Estates sanitary sewer rehab. Any questions on the treasurer report or items?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the receipts and approve the expenditures as presented in the expenditure register and as summarized in the treasurer's report.
You have your microphone on?
I think I heard.
Okay. We have a second. Any questions or comments on the bills? None? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Old business, 2024 appointments to the ESAC. Do I have a motion?
Just a point of clarification first, Mr. Chair. So I did get, after this packet was completed, we did get a note from Mary McCluskey saying she was withdrawing her name for consideration. Even prior to that, another person that was being considered, Denise Royal, withdrew her name for consideration. So now we have 4 candidates for the open 4 spots.
4 open spots. Thank you. Cody?
Prior to my motion, thank you, Mary McCloskey, for your service and all your work you spent on ESAC. Mr. Chair, I move that we appoint the following people to 4 open spots on ESAC. Christy Marshall, who's a current member, Kenan Flanagan, Anthony, I'm gonna butcher this last name, is Natal, and then Kimberly Schaefer.
Second.
Motion is second. And comment, questions from the board? In the room? Nothing on Zoom? I'll call the question then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Thank you. And now the resolution for the first responder tax credit. We've discussed this a number of times.
Yeah.
You want to just draw it very briefly?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And there is no vote tonight. I wanted to bring this back up because this was an ordinance that was passed in the spring of last year. I believe it was May. And I cite the ordinance 129-C-2023. And it was essentially allowing volunteer first responders to get a tax credit, both real estate and income tax, that lives within the boundary of the township. So we did pass the ordinance. What we did not pass is the accompanying resolution that laid out the eligibility criteria for getting the actual reimbursement or the tax credit. So there was some issues going back and forth with that of basically how stringent the requirements were or were not. So I kind of went back and did some recon, so to speak, and was able to come up with essentially what we have the Goshen Fire Company uses and compare that with the Malvern Fire Department, which I think in question, a lot of it was the Malvern Fire Department as far as what they did for the criteria. And lo and behold, we didn't have the Goshen Fire Company's length of service award program spelled out in the resolution. But when I dug into it more, Grant Everhart was good enough to send me the documents. It was actually fairly similar or almost identical to the criteria that we were proposing for Malvern Fire Department, even though at the time we did not know if that was a good enough criteria to use. So I just want to see what the board has to say about passing the resolution at the next meeting. I don't have much else to go by as far as why this wouldn't be okay as far as the criteria to actually use for going forward for the tax credit. So we have, just to spell it out for the residents, we have 10% of them. What a first responder would need to do is participate in 10% of the emergency calls for service of their station for the tax years and attend 1 department sponsored training per month during the tax year and attend 2 public events or fundraising events. And that was Malvern Fire Department. I don't have the Goshen Fire's LoSAP in front of me, but I think that was fairly similar laid out. So again, I'm looking for sort of guidance from the board because we have this ordinance out there that was passed and we can't use it as of right now for the tax credits for the first responders. So if after this research, the board is comfortable enough with me bringing up the resolution in February 20th, then I'd be more than happy to do that.
The yellow highlighted section, what is that exactly?
That is the criteria for which every first responding organization that serves East Goshen Township is judged by in order to get this tax credit. So if they don't meet this criteria, they do not get the tax
Okay.
credit.
But if they do, they get it, and
Correct.
we're on board with doing this then.
That's what I'm asking, yeah.
Yes.
You're good?
You
You're good?
Okay.
I'm good. My only question is, do we get a list of who qualifies for that?
We didn't get that far yet, but that we're gonna have to, Dave and I are gonna have to do that.
Well, it's kind of twofold because there's going to be the real estate tax collection, which is handled at county level, and then the EIT collection, which is handled at the Keystone Collections. The reports we get from Keystone gives us nothing definitive. They have their own private account numbers for everybody that they collect that from, so we don't have that data. I have no idea how many people would be involved in that afterwards. And then similarly, I could get a list from Chester County by parcel of people, but I'd have to know the volunteers.
Okay, well, would that be a problem for you, Grant?
So we currently do that for West Coast and Westtown. We provide two documents to the township. We have one, which is a full list of the volunteers who are property owners and or residents to earn EIT credit. That's signed by our chief and our president, and notarized and sent to the township. And then each individual volunteer fills out a form and self-certifies that they qualify.
Okay,
And both of those documents are sent to the township, and then they're forwarded either to your real estate tax department or to consent.
Cool. Good enough for me. Thanks.
Dave? Can we handle that?
That'll work. I would reach out to the fellowship and I'll check them out. Same stuff.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that, I think we're all on board, Derek.
Yeah, there is no motion. I will have that for the February 20th meeting for potential passage. Thank you. Oh, yeah, that's yours. Thank you.
Okay, next item, the traffic issue on Highland Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So at the last meeting, there were some residents from Highland Avenue that did come up and express concerns on the street that they lived on, primarily for volume and speed. So, in working with, Public Works and Westtown East Goshen Police, we did capture some preliminary data on the information that we were given. And that is in the packet. We did not, this just captures a moment in time. It did not show the speeding numbers. The volume is a concern. I'm not saying speeding is not a concern. It just wasn't captured in that data that we took. I did talk to a couple of the residents who I was communicating with on a regular basis on this over there. I did let them know today that Mark Miller and I think we have a couple of ideas that we can actually implement fairly quickly. The one was the fact that the speed hump sign over there does not have a little diamond sign under it that says 15 miles an hour. And that is able to put that down there and just let the vehicles know that are passing that they have to slow down for the speed hump. So we can do that pretty much right away. I had spoken with the residents too about a sign down in Westtown, a street called Jacqueline Drive that had a specific sign that they were citing, but I couldn't really visualize it. So Mark Miller and I took a drive down. It's not a traffic or it's not any sort of traffic sign designated or by the state of Pennsylvania, but it is I would say an HOA style sign for the community, something almost like we have on Route 3 that says "Welcome to East Goshen," something like that size and that shape. So we could do something similar like that right away too, and it has a sign. Basically, what the sign says is no speeding, strictly enforced residential neighborhood, something along those lines. So it wouldn't be an enforceable traffic sign, but it acts as a deterrent. So
Would you put one at one end of the street and the other at the other end, or?
we could do that. We just have to look for exactly where we would put it based on the right of way that we have there. Probably work with the specific homeowners where that sign would be, because it would be large and it would be in the ground versus just a regular traffic sign. So yeah, those are two things we could do right away. But as I said in the memo, I'd also like to convene what is known as the local advisory traffic committee. It's made up of myself, Mark Miller, would probably be Sergeant Ted Lewis at WeGo, and then our engineering firm Pannoni. So just to get a little bit more ideas on not only signage, but if they do see any need for critiquing of the speed hump there. I will say, and when I saw the map, it's a little unbalanced as far as where the speed humps are. So I'd like a little bit more input on it from an engineering perspective on that. So yeah, so that's, we kind of want to go forward along those lines, and happy for discussion right now.
You heard that? Yeah, come up and state your name and your township.
Good evening. My name is Mike Coover. I reside at 1613 Highland Avenue. Derek, just quickly, I saw, I guess, the volume slash speed meter that was put in, and in my opinion, that was placed far too early on Highland Avenue. Maybe a couple 100 feet off of 352, and I can tell you, living basically in the middle of Highland, the speeds right before the speed bump are they're much too high. So I put together my thoughts here. Just wanted to express again, my name is Mike Coover. I reside at 1613 Highland Avenue, and I've lived on the street since 1987. My mom was actually part of the committee that put in the current 2 speed humps after there was a few close calls. And honestly, the street is used as a thoroughfare for a lot of drivers between Pilly Pike and 352. Unfortunately, it is what it is, but the street is extremely straight. So it's almost like a drag strip, but it's also extremely narrow. I was out there and I took a couple measurements. On average, it's just 19 to 20 feet wide, which leaves very little margin for 2 cars to pass, let alone walkers, joggers, or kids and adults on bicycles. There's also times where the bus and the trash truck can't even pass each other without going onto the lawn of the residents, which is another nuisance. Nonetheless, there's been significant turnover lately on that street with newer and younger families moving in. Personally, I see that trend continuing. More and more kids are going to be on that street. You have them, riding scooters, bikes, but not only the kids. Highland Avenue is basically the path for a significant surrounding neighborhoods to walk to the north side of East Goshen Park, such as Warrior Road, which is part of Indian Hills, the Waterford development, Taylor Avenue, and Alcott Circle. So there is significant foot traffic, let alone the kids on bikes and scooters that are using that street. There is no sidewalks, there's no curbs. Again, it's very narrow. So in my opinion, action is necessary and vital on that street. So I'm asking the board that strong consideration for additional traffic mitigation is conducted, as it only takes one event, one car, one motorcycle to completely alter an entire family's life. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? One thing I want to say, and I don't want to be negative here, we will put the signs up immediately or as soon as possible. And you guys will have to come back and let us know if they're doing any good. We're reluctant to put more speed bumps in. And the reason for that, and I didn't realize it until I got talking to Public Works, they make it very, very difficult to plow in the winter, to plow the snow. In fact, we've lost a couple of plows to speed bumps in the past. I'm trying to see if the ad hoc group here, the engineer, the township manager, et cetera, can come up with some other way to slow the traffic down. If we have to go to speed bumps, we'll go to speed bumps. And I get myself in trouble, but there are some legal problems with speed bumps. You have to get permissions to put them in. I often encourage township management to get the job done and then apologize afterwards. But we, go ahead.
I mean, that's,
We use smaller plows in there, but your point is well taken. Can we
I mean, I'm not,
They're longer, the speed bumps over
Yeah.
the park.
I'm not trying to be evasive, but I really want to sit down with the traffic engineer and go over all the options that are out there. I don't want to sit here and debate what we may or may not
When would
do.
you do that?
Probably in the next couple of weeks if I can get something on the books.
Would you be willing to let a member of the public come into that meeting?
It's gonna be a public meeting. I mean, I'll probably be during the day, but it's an advertised public meeting.
This my last comment. Appreciate the signs. The signs are gonna be ignored just like the speed limit sign. A private or parkway drive, residential street should annoy people that potentially want to cut through to no longer use that street. And honestly, one way would be additional speed bumps. They're gonna go, you know what? This is a nuisance to take this street. If it's just signage, it's, again, I appreciate it, but the signage will not cut down the speed.
Well, you may be right, but we're gonna try the signs anyway. That's something we can do. That's something we can do right away. And we don't have to go to anybody for permission or anything like that. Now, if we have a meeting or if Derek has a meeting, would one of you, I know several of you there are interested in this, would one or more of you like to come to the meeting? Can you let them know?
Yeah.
Okay, but after we have this meeting or at some time that's convenient for everybody, would you give Derek your emails?
I already have their emails.
Oh, you have them?
Mhm.
Okay,
Appreciate Derek's work too, and I appreciate the work. We just wanna keep the pedal to the metal, I guess. Before anything bad happens.
good. And the best way to do that is to come to these meetings, and you've done that. So good. Is question on Zoom? Oh, it's Russ. Russ, unmute yourself. Russ Frank, you have your hand up.
I think he's, mm,
No?
sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Is there any other comment or question in the room here? All right. So we'll move on. New business 11B, 1010 Hershey Mill Road, preliminary approval. Ah,
Guess I won't say anything.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Allison Zaro on behalf of the developer of 1010 Hershey Mill Road. We're here this evening regarding the preliminary land development plan for this project. We were here previously. I know we do have a couple of new board members, but we were here previously about this site. This site is approximately 16 acres and it's located on Hershey Mill Road. It's zoned R2 district. And this board previously approved a conditional use for the property for development of single-family homes under the open space design option of the township. And that since that time, we've then filed our preliminary subdivision and land development application. At the time the conditional use was approved, there were 15 lots proposed. That's since been reduced to 14 lots. 2 of the lots are proposed to retain 2 existing buildings that are on the property. One is an existing house, which is on the historic resource inventory. And the second is a barn that would also be converted to a single family residence. Whoever would do that would need to come back through the historical commission. That's in our conditions of conditional use approval and get specific approvals with respect to, those buildings as they're redone. We had submitted our land development or plan application several months ago. We've been through several rounds of reviews. We've discussed it with your planning commission. We had resubmitted on a couple of occasions and your planning commission recommended approval in December. And we're here tonight seeking preliminary plan approval. So I'm happy to go over things, address various things, but I figured I would give an introduction to start.
I appreciate that. My question, you've gone from 15 to 14. Is that because you had to widen the street?
I think it was, it was not specifically because of street widening. It was just the site layout adjustments. Once we got into full engineering, that's just the way it worked out.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, if you're okay with this, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with the approval of 1010 Hershey Mill Road, Millstone Meadows for preliminary plan approval.
Second.
all right. Are there questions or comments from the board? From the room?
Maybe.
Anybody on Zoom?
Can't see Zoom right now. One second. Oh, there we go.
Well,
I think we're
we're
good.
making this easy.
Mr. Chairman, I would only note that if you're going to approve it, I would make it subject to the review of the engineer's review letter. There are a number of comments that are in that review letter, and I think that encompasses the issues that still remain outstanding with the plan.
Okay, Mark, is that all right? Friendly amendment?
Friendly amendment. You betcha.
All right. Having done that, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Was easy, huh?
Yes.
All right. And now, 301 Reservoir Road, certificate of appropriateness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this actually was the case that was heard, the conditional use in January 16th, about the new timber mill development coming up. So this is, our ordinance requires any sort of exterior work to a historic house like that be given a certificate of appropriateness in order to do the work. So if you could see here in the memo from Dwayne, the work is really sort of enclosing the existing windows, relocation of the doorway, re-roof. So the exterior work just to sort of keep the house buttoned up, if you will, particularly through the winter. So again, this is sort of related to the CU that we just did, and it is specifically for that work that's outlined in the memo here, because our ordinance requires it.
Thanks, Derek. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the certificate of appropriateness for 301 Reservoir Road renovation permit.
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? No. From the room? And on Zoom? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's done. The page. All right. Resolution 2024-04 Pipeline Task Force Reduction of Membership.
Thank you. So I think I brought this up at the last meeting. We have been struggling to get ABC members and volunteers since as long as I remember. And we're actually doing pretty well right now, but the Pipeline Task Force has traditionally had 7 slots as far as the resolution that created the task force is concerned. It has been operating mostly as a 5-member board since I've been the manager here. And right now we're actually at 3 members. We're hoping to get another 2, but trying to get another 4 is really pushing it. So, in speaking with Jerry Sexton, who's the chair of the Pipeline Task Force, he's supportive of this as well. He's on Zoom. We're just trying to get the number of task force members to a manageable amount of people so that we can actually hit our target versus just having this 7 amount that we'll never hit. So I think we're all in agreement that we would like to go down to 5 people if possible.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I move that we pass resolution 2024-04, reducing the pipeline task force from 7 members to 5.
Second.
okay. Comment from the board or questions? In the room?
Question
On the question on Zoom, is that you, Russ?
Yep. See if we can unmute. Here we go. There you go. Mm,
Oh, yeah.
he's not.
Russ, are you unmuted?
No, he's not.
Russ Frank, would like to hear your question, but I don't think you're unmuted. All right, well, if he comes on, we'll allow him to ask a question out of order. Otherwise, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, 4-0. Resolution passes. What are we up to? Applebrook maintenance?
Thank you,
What
Mr.
is it?
Chairman. So this is a proposed escrow release of $186,018.89 on the Applebrook Golf Club turf maintenance area project. This will leave a balance of $209,829.41 on the escrow. So we're releasing, this is the first escrow release in the project, as you can see from the numbers, and then the letter from our engineer, Pannoni. They're comfortable that this amount reflects where we are in the project and how much we need to go.
Okay, that's good information.
Thanks, Derek. Mr. Chair, I move that we allow township staff to release the first payment totaling the amount of $186,018.89 for the Applebrook Golf Course.
Yeah, just one point, and I don't want to prolong this, but the number doesn't match what I was handed from Pannoni. The Pannoni number is 89,000, and this is 186. Can we clear that up?
Sure, if you can approve the amount that's on the initial memo, and then I can see what the $3,000.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
But
So-
thanks.
Well, it'll remain 186,000 rather than 189,000. And questions from the board, comments? From the room? And Russ's hand is still up. It's making me nervous. Russ?
No, I think it's just stuck. I don't know.
Maybe he's stuck, yeah. Okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Let them have their money. All right, what's up next? We don't have an alternate appointment yet. We have we have at least one person interview yet.
We had one person, Jim Christensen, interviewed for another position, and I had him on as a CHB alternate appointment tonight. I know you had sent an email today.
Yeah,
indicating.
let's put that over onto the next. I want to get us an interview with this other person. His background is impressive, to say the least. So we'll pass that to the next meeting. Okay, 2024 capital plan radio signal booster system and Ford Explorer. What's that about?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in speaking with Dave, Mark Miller, we were kind of strategizing on capital plan, and as you can imagine, as we try to do this capital planning on a long-term basis, sometimes priorities change. So we had originally had in the capital plan in the budget a radio signal booster system this year at approximately $45,000, Dave, was it?
Yeah.
$45,000. But then we were planning on, particularly for the new position in codes in need of a Ford Explorer in order to satisfy the demands we have over in codes. We were planning on getting that on the capital plan in 2025. Seeing as how we still have to look at the signal down there, make sure it actually is in need of a booster. And the fact that we think the extra vehicle is more of a priority right now, we're hoping to switch these capital items and put the Explorer in the 2024 budget, which is this year, obviously, and then move the radio signal booster back to 2025. The Ford Explorer is probably a little bit cheaper than the radio signal booster system, probably by about $5,000 to $6,000. So it's budget neutral, really.
Good. And it's a good price for a Ford Explorer.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing. We had the Co-Stars and,
It's amazing. It's an amazing price, and we're hopeful that in 2025, the signals, will do internal testing for the signal boost. And we might not even need to do an actual booster in the basement.
Good.
So that would be even more positive.
That would be excellent.
Great. Mr. Chair, I move we authorize staff's recommendation to move the $45,000 2024 capital expense item of the radio signal boosting system to 2025 and purchase the 2024 Ford Explorer with the 2024 fiscal year for the price of $39,222.
Second.
All right, questions about that or comments from the board in the room? On Zoom? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
It passes 4-0.
Russ did inform us via chat that he is having computer issues, so we appreciate the explanation, Russ.
Yeah, thank you, Russ. It's always good to see you, though. Come on in. What's this about a milling machine and carrier trucks?
So this is trying to wrap up the rest of the 2024 bids that we went out for. These are just kind of standard things that we go out for every year. And taking a look at, trying to fulfill the needs we have for Public Works for the milling machine, all-terrain crawler, carrier trucks, and crusher.
These are rentals, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend that GT Mid-Atlantic be awarded all three of the above listed bids. Do I have to read all of the?
No,
No.
they're the low bidder,
Yeah.
right? Am I right? Okay. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? In the room? On Zoom? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Passes 4-0. Standing issues and projects. Derek.
Milltown Dam project is moving along nicely. We are still targeting late April, early May as a wrap up to that project. The shortened project, obviously, that was agreed upon in September. And we will, though, be coming around to the board again, kind of looking to plan on what comes next for that area. Because obviously we all agreed that even if it's a scaled back version of what was supposed to go there with the enhancements, that we probably need to do something. So after the dam work is done and we've lowered it to the standards that we set forth with DEP and the Army Corps, we'll be back around, probably start the conversation before that wraps up and see some of the ideas that we've been kicking around internally as far as how we go forward.
Well, it will certainly be part of the budget exercise
Mhm.
starting in June.
Yep.
Good.
Bow Tree Pond, they are dredging still. It's about 20 days in for the actual dredging. And I talked to Mark about it today. He said it's going fairly well. We had that tough stretch in January where it was frozen solid. So that was a little bit of a hiccup, but other than that, it's moving along nicely as well.
Very good. Do you have a tentative finish date for that?
I think it's actually pretty close to the Milltown Dam project, isn't it, Dave? Like we're April, maybe even sooner.
Well, it's kind of twofold. So within the next week, they should probably wrap up, week and a half, wrap up all the rest of the
The
dredging.
dredging itself, yeah.
And then it's gonna be then we'll let the bags sit to dry out. And then early spring, the guys, probably April-ish, we'll split the bags, dry
Seed
it
and
out.
straw, yeah.
Super.
Seed straw, yeah.
Super. I see, Russ, you're with us. Do you have any questions? I know you got blocked out. Okay, well, it's coming very soon. Any other matter from the board? Hearing none, it's another public comment. Do you want a public comment, Russ?
Russ Frank, I'm a proud East Goshen resident.
Yes.
Can I ask all three of them now?
Aye.
Okay.
Yes.
The first one is, I heard the thing about the ABCs.
Yeah.
When do you make a decision that if we can't get enough volunteers, that you got to just close that ABC down?
You mean the pipeline?
Well, that's what I was thinking of, but
Well, we want to keep the pipeline going because there are potential problems with the pipeline. We have a couple of people who have volunteered for the pipeline, and we're going to get to that probably at the next meeting.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's why, if you want to stick around, I see David Shuey here. David, has some serious information about the pipelines. I don't want to get into the whole thing.
well, I was on that committee when it first started.
Yeah.
That's, now I'm
Yeah.
seeing it, what's winding down in what I see.
I don't know
That's what I
if
was
it's
curious
winding
of.
down. It's gone to
Okay.
5 people, but,
Mr.
I-
Chair, do you mind if I add something real too?
Sure.
Real quick? We've already sunset 2 committees due to lack of participation, the historical committee and then also the futurist committee as well.
well, we did not officially dissolve them yet, but.
They're
Well,
inactive due to
Yeah.
due to no members, so.
That was the first question. Second question was, Dave, I think I heard in one of these meetings about the trash problem.
Mhm.
And I thought I heard on the YouTube channel that there is a performance clause with our contract with Belinsky.
Correct.
If you do you ever submit a performance claim?
We have not yet. We can. We had to set an internal standard to say, okay, if trash is missed or yard waste is missed, what is the time lapse between them making good on it? Is it a 24-hour period? So once we address that, now we have that constraint. We've been taking information from people, but it's also the follow-up from people to say, did it get collected again? So it's kind of a back and forth with residents and making sure that we get all the information from residents. So we haven't done it yet, but we have compiled a list. We can submit it at any time. I mean, I'm gonna get the information from Mark because his department, Lynn, is actually handling it and taking everybody's information. And once we get the additional criteria that I would like included to make sure that we're buttoned up, so to speak, when we submit that invoice, and have Derek review it, and then we'll go from there.
So what mechanism do you have in place that the residents know if there is a problem to submit a problem request to the township?
Most people call the township, but we actually did just, it should be live. I gotta talk to Ashley tomorrow, but we just did get a form on the website and we're pushing that information out on Facebook and other avenues.
Yeah,
to say-
that's the part because I noticed that Westtown has that type of, but I did not see one on East Goshen yet. And I looked, I think last
No,
week.
Ashley in our office was working on it and it's either live now or it's going to be live within the next day or two as far as a form on, it's basically a Google form on the website
Okay.
that you could fill out and give us that information.
have you had a problem?
No, I don't, but I've been hearing about people have a lot of problems and
Yeah.
I was wondering how we're gonna, my real question to this whole question thing here, Dave,
Mhm.
is if you do submit a claim.
Yeah.
And it is a substantial claim, what are you gonna do with the money?
It goes against it's gonna be recouped by the sewer fund.
So it goes back into the super fund? I mean, a sewer fund or trash fund?
Oh, yeah, it's an
Okay.
enterprise fund. You can't,
Okay.
you can't split
That's
it.
what I didn't want to know what would happen to that.
Yep, that just goes to
Good
help,
question, yeah.
help offset the costs that we have.
Okay. I can't remember the third one. Had it at home written down, sorry. Thank you.
Ah, shucks. Well then, is there any other public comment? All right, we don't have liaison reports or correspondence.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, 7:46, and I got 2 minutes at the beginning, didn't I? So that's a record.
Aye. We vote on adjournment.
Yeah.
Aye.
We don't vote on adjournment, we just adjourn. All right.